we have a special guest, Ajay Bhaskar as well from Wipro. So come on up, guys.
So, first of all, tell us a little bit about your role and what you do at Wipro, but also tell me about what's your favorite app. There's a app overload right now.
Yeah.
What's the app that you're using right now?
Yeah, no, thanks, Saurabh, and good to be here. And I realize I'm standing between the most favorite session, which is coming after this. So I'm going to try and cool tempers and the temperature here. I know we've got a feud coming up. But yeah, I think my favorite, I like to listen a lot versus read, right? And so I'm going to follow Phil's podcast soon. So I listen a lot. I even read books through listening to Audible, etc. So the app I've found very useful is NotebookLM.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Okay.
and because I found it amazing because you can just put in as many research documents of HFS and others, and then comes up with a great podcast with two people speaking and really distilling the essence of the document. So that's my current favorite.
What do you do at Wipro? Because Chief Strategy Officer is a big role, right? And so, what is your day-to-day life? What does it look like?
Okay. Strategies like digital, and you don't know what
Yeah,
you do
what
in
do you?
strategy.
You can do everything and nothing
And
at the same
nothing
time.
at the same time. Yeah, exactly. So I think it's interesting, right? I think most of the organizations, almost all organizations are executing for the quarter, executing for the year, executing for the near term, and I think the strategy function is one function at least. I'm sure there are others who are looking at it from a longer term horizon, right? So we're really looking at how things are likely to evolve from the next 3 to 5 year horizon. What are the opportunities, challenges, disruptions across a gamut of things, markets, economies, technologies, clients, industries, and then really reflecting on what we should be doing and what are the pivots we should be taking. Number one, but it doesn't end there. Right? We don't do strategy every day like this, right? It's done for a period of time. But I think a lot of the time is really operationalizing the strategy, right? Strategy is only as good as execution. So a lot of our time is really looking at those priorities and then seeing how do we operationalize it and really deliver outcomes and impact. So that's really what we do. Simply.
So we've been talking a lot today about these blurring lines between software and services. Do you agree, not agree? What's your stance on that?
No, I think there is going to be blurring for sure, right? I think it's unlikely that we're going to look at software as traditional software and services as traditional services. I think, and we heard, a lot of conversations about the productized way of working, delivering in a more productized format, and I think that we see a lot. Uh, I think where the industry is moving is applying technologies like AI versus creating the technology, right? And if you are going to apply, you're going to solve problems. If you're going to solve problems, you need to have a solution which is much more productized in nature, and that'll have software, it'll have capabilities built in, it'll have tools, accelerators. So we are getting there. So that's the way I see it. If the industry has to solve problems, we're going to get to a more productized and a platform kind of work, enabled work.
And so how are you eating your own dog food? Or sorry, it should be how are you drinking your own champagne?
Yeah, I like that word better.
Than the first one.
Yeah.
What are you doing to make that happen?
Yeah, no, it's a good question. And in fact, when we talk to clients, that's the first question they ask us. You're telling me all these great
Yeah.
things what AI can do. What are you doing to yourself, right? And I think we look at fundamentally in three dimensions. There's operate better, which is really client zero and what we are doing. Deliver better, and the third is change the game, which is how can we help clients really change the game. I think on the operate better piece, I'll give you just two examples, which kind of illustrate. One is we're looking at deploying this at scale across everything we do, right? All our functions, all our shared services, our CIO organization. So that's fundamentally the way we are thinking about. I think there are three words we use as Wipro: mindset, skill set, tool set. So AI mindset, AI skill set, and AI tool set, and an AI first approach to everything we do. That's the journey we want to take and we are on. I think the two examples I'll give you is, we are about 230,000 people globally, and we have lots of claims of various kinds, right? And we have about 40,000 medical claims a month. 40,000 medical claims a month. And what we've done is we've kind of deployed, AI, obviously trained talent, but deployed tools as well. And today we have 20% of that which are touchless. That's not the destination. I'm sure we can improve. But that's one example of how we are really bringing in accuracy and efficiency. And the way this happens is we have a policy. We've got medical bills, right? More than just looking at the policy and saying, is this eligible and can this bill be cleared? It's also kind of looking at the medication which is on the bill. What's the generic equivalent? Because you may buy a medicine which may not be exactly the same as what's on the prescription, for example. So it's getting to that level of kind of accuracy and intelligence to kind of help. So that's one example. I think the other example is we've got something known as vNow, V for Wipro, vNow, and that handles about 14 million queries of employees.
Wow.
14 million. And with 80% user favorability. And it not only handles queries as a conversational AI, but it also performs tasks. So I no longer have to go somewhere and apply leave. I just say apply leave. And it applies leave for me between these days, etc. So it's getting into task and hopefully to agentic very quickly. So just two examples, sort of where we are drinking our own champagne. Let me put it that way.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. The other conversation that's sort of dominated today so far, Ajay, has been this concept of ecosystem. Somebody sort of even drew a visual of there's a triangle of service provider, GCC, third party. I would add government into it because we heard Priyank talk about it. I'd add technology providers to it. But there's a big mesh of ecosystem sort of coming together. How are you at Wipro sort of building this ecosystem?
Yeah, I think I'll split that question into two parts, Saurabh, right? I think the first part is, I think we heard about technology, we heard about startups, we heard about service providers, we heard about GCCs. I think for us, one dimension of ecosystem is how do we tap cutting edge innovation every day, and how do we know what those innovations are and how do we tap? And one of the things we set up, it's the decade now this month for us, 2015, we set up something called Wipro Ventures. And the whole idea there was to kind of proactively tap the innovation ecosystem in Silicon Valley as well as Israel. And those are the two countries we started with. The whole idea was to invest in early to mid-stage startups, not from a financial objective in mind, but from a strategic objective, and in the areas which can bring that technology into the solutions we are taking to our clients and solving problems for our clients. So that's one ecosystem play where we've been at it. We've done about 35 investments in areas like generative AI, in cybersecurity, cloud,
Could you give us one or two examples?
Yeah, I'll give you one example because the topic here is about generative AI a lot today. And in your previous conversation, you talked about one-person unicorn. So there's this company called EMA, E-M-A, and
I actually happen to know that company, but yes.
Okay, and they say they are one employee, infinite roles. That's how they position themselves, right? One employee, infinite roles. So essentially, you can use that agentic AI platform to create any persona, whether it's a business development executive, whether it's a recruiter, whether it's a clinician, right? And actually use EMA to build those personas and then tasks, and the task getting into real workflows. So that's a great example. And for us, use that technology is to really then personify it and really solve a real problem in the real world. So that's one example of how we're looking at technology, but really looking at applying the technology to solve a problem. So that's the ecosystem example, I think, which kind of
that's
comes to mind.
fantastic, and I think people should check out this Emma.ai. I think it's started by Saurabh.
Yes.
He's an ex-Google guy, right? I think it's fantastic. It's at least, I don't know how good it is, but it's fascinating. For sure. The other, so we talked about ecosystems, we talked about blurring of lines. Obviously, this whole theme is GCCs, right? So how are you guys now partnering with GCCs? Is it any different than it was, say, 5 years ago?
Yeah. No, we've heard a lot about GCC, so I'm not going to bore you more, sort of. But I think a couple of things, right? GCCs, and you spoke about it last evening, and you spoke about the journey over the decades. I think all service providers and all GCCs in some form or shape work with each other, right? It's not new as a topic. But I think what we are seeing changing is, companies who are now thinking of it more strategically. We've seen GCCs of the past who've come through, being an outpost to a satellite to being central now in terms of driving transformation and owning portfolios for parent organizations. So a lot of the conversations we are having almost every week is companies who have not set up GCCs, right? Who are coming in, and they are large companies. They're not small. They're large. They're mid-sized companies, but they're not very. Some of them are not very clear what the future. How should they think about it? Fundamentally, from a everybody comes for costs, saying we have a strategic objective of saving X million or X billion dollars, and so GCC is the answer for it. And our conversations are it needs to be more than that. Cost, of course, is given, but what's the longer? What are the business drivers? What are you trying to achieve? What is strategic and core versus what is non-core? And that's the journey we are on. So our role really is trying to help those companies who want to set up GCCs think through their portfolio and sourcing strategy, help them set up operations. And what we also say is we don't recommend any models for you. I mean, there are so many models which are thrown, BOT, hybrid, GCC as a service. I think our learning has been that it needs to be a fit for purpose model, right? Depending on what the client is looking at, what their strategic and business drivers are. GCC is certainly a solution for certain kinds of strategic objectives, but may not be a solution for everything. And that's really where our role comes in to say where it makes sense, where it doesn't, and where it makes sense, how do we make you successful in becoming a transformation hub over the next 3 to 5 years. That's really how we are thinking and trying to have these conversations with clients.
So whenever GCC is not a new concept,
yeah.
it's a newish name, but it's not a new concept. It's been there ever since we've had Wipros and the Infosys
Yeah.
of the world as long as that, right? But whenever I talk to service providers in general,
Yeah.
I hear three things about GCCs. We help them with BOT, is one,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
The second is, I'm looking for a captive carve out,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Which is an acquisition of
Yeah.
perhaps a not so well performing GCC or what
Yeah.
have you.
Yeah.
Or we've created a JV,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
What are other models beyond these that
Yeah.
you are
Yeah.
thinking
Yeah.
of, or that, because I think there is a fairly common perception that everybody's saying this is not an or model, this is an and model,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
I also agree with, even though we've got the family feud where we're going to sort of push
I'm
the
waiting
or.
for that one. Yeah.
We're going to push the or model,
Yeah.
but still, I think we know the answer.
Yeah.
So what is that model? What are the other models beyond those two or three that's
Yeah.
been common?
Yeah. So the way I would think about it, Saurabh, is and I'm talking about real client conversations where we're having. There are some firms and large firms who are thinking about, we're not present in India. We don't have a brand. How do I get off the ground very quickly, right? And then get comfort, get confidence that this works before I take larger steps, right? And there you could have something known as, everybody says BOT, and some folks say, does T really happen, or when does T happen, and all of that. But that's one way of thinking about, get started off the ground very quickly through a BO or BOT or whatever, if that's what the client feels is the best way to get going and get comfort and confidence. And during that period of time, set up the foundation, build the brand, etc., and be successful. Then there are clients who are saying, I want to establish my brand. I want to kind of operate it on my own. And those could be what we call assisted GCC, where the client, the firm sets up the GCC, but requires a partner, right, to kind of help them through the entire journey, through the process, to scale it up, to have the right talent, to also kind of get some of the capabilities from service providers. Because service providers, as somebody said, work across industries, have platforms, have COEs, have a lot of tools in their arsenal, which would be absolutely useful as opposed to starting from scratch for a GCC. And so those could be assisted GCC forms, where the enterprise takes the lead, and then the partner helps them. And there may be no JV construct, by the way. Here, it's completely led, built by the enterprise. And then you have where the enterprise decides to go on their own completely. They really don't need a partner, right? And there are many such cases. We call it BYO, build your own, right? And there again, it depends. You can say that, but I think there are opportunities again, depending on the product portfolio, depending on the type of work, there's an opportunity to partner again with the GC. So various models. There are lots of buzzwords. I want to stay away from buzzwords. But again, in my mind, it's fit for purpose. It's really, and we've seen different scenarios. Like you have horses for courses, HFS, fit for purpose, different scenarios, different clients.
Fantastic. So fit for purpose.
Yeah.
So let me ask you. I think that our time's up, but I wanted to ask you this personal question of, there's so much change that we are witnessing and we will witness.
Yeah.
How have you changed your leadership style? How have you changed or trying to change personally?
Yeah.
To be a better boss, to be a better strategist, to be a better human. What are some of the things that you're trying to change?
Yeah, I think I'm going to pick up what Gaurav said in one of your previous sessions, right? I think staying curious, and I think this is the generation of unlearning first and learning at the same time. And we've all seen the speed of evolution of technology, knowledge, expertise. Uh, you can't only be deep in one. You need to really have a broad breadth of business understanding, technology understanding, and more importantly, application to solve a problem. So I think being open-minded, being curious, being hungry, and learning as much as you can, not learning formally but informally as well. Uh, every opportunity you have, I think is going to be an important element to kind of be a better leader and grow as a leader. I think the second is, it's not about being a boss, if you ask me, right? It's about how you engage, collaborate, and work with people seamlessly. Doesn't matter hierarchy, doesn't matter whether they directly report. It's influence, but it's engagement, collaboration, which is going to be critical, because not one person is not going to know everything, right? It's going to be how you work with broader ecosystems internally in the organization, externally, and get the best out to kind of really be impactful. And I don't think there's going to be an end to this journey. There's no destination. It's going to be, every day is going to be a new day where you're going to need to be conscious about this, having a very open mind to everything.
Yeah, I really like the last part of this because we also at HFS believe that we as leaders need an infinite mindset.
Yeah.
Is this thing, the rules are changing,
Yeah.
the competition is changing. It's not about sort of winning.
Yeah.
It's about surviving.
Absolutely.
And surviving for the longest
Yeah.
time.
And it's the most difficult
It's
thing
the
to
most,
do,
yeah.
right? I mean, it's easy to say, have an open mind, stay curious, but I think unless you consciously think about it in the mind every day and try and do
Yeah.
something about it, it's not easy.
Yeah,
but it's a journey.
Yeah, we should try to be those video games that our kids play, right? They never end.
They never end.
We just need to keep paying.
Yeah. Absolutely.
But thanks, Ajay. This was a fascinating conversation.
Thank you.
Thanks for
Thank you,
spending
Saurabh.
some time with us.
No, thank you, and all the best for the next one. I'm looking forward to that.
Thank you.